We're all here. We're trickling in. I wanted to thank everybody for joining our first webinar of the year. Yay, we're already like past a week into 2025, which is insane to me. We are scheduled to have a great turnout today, which I think super highlights the importance of the topic and the caliber of the speaker. Andrea and I have crossed paths many times, and I'm super excited that you are here with us today, especially because she lives outside of LA and is okay, but I'm sure she's very stressed. So if there's any technical difficulties, we will work through it. But please know, she is like in a
Our
crisis.
state's on fire.
Yeah,
Yes.
literally, you are on fire. Um, she's got a ton of letters behind her name. If you ever get a chance, I think you should ask her about them because they all are unique and fascinating and really like resonate in our industry. She's a consultant, she's a trainer, she's a podcast host. If you're not listening to the Positive Leader podcast, you totally should be. Add that to your list. Something else that I thought was super impressive about her was that she was celebrated as California VMA's Paraprofessional of the Year. I mean, that's huge. So I think that that's definitely something to be celebrated. The most important thing though is that you were here with us today and you were amazing and we are all ready to like soak up your wisdom.
Let's do it.
You're up.
Yeah, I will have to say, we're gonna start with I am requesting a lot of grace today. This week has been one of those weeks where when you get out of bed and the first thing you do is step in cat puke, and then the rest of your day just goes to shit. Like that's been my whole entire week. So we're here, we're gonna make it amazing. And if we need to pivot, we're going to pivot. I'm ready. Let's do it. As Megan said, I do a lot of different things. I got my hands in a lot of different irons in the fire kind of thing. I'll start with a short, brief bio, so you have an understanding of how my credentials work in the veterinary space. They're all, like Megan said, unique. I started off working as a doctor's assistant in a multi-specialty practice with about 22 different doctors and about 200 employees working ER and emergency critical care. That was intense. I was doing my undergrad in vet med and knew that I did not want to go to vet school. I was a single mom and had zero desire to work 100 hours a week and come out of vet school $400,000 in debt. That was just not going to be my jam. But I knew I wanted to work in the veterinary space somehow, some way. So graduating with a degree in animal health science, pre-vet option, I was just going to wing it and figure it out. I became an ICU ER supervisor, and from there climbed the corporate ladder very quickly. I should say more of the leadership ladder. I was a front office manager and a hospital manager, and then realized I had no idea about veterinary business. I came from a family of entrepreneurs, knew about business, but not necessarily veterinary business. So I got my CVPM. And at the time, there was like 300 CVPMs in the world, like not very many of us. Now there's about 1,000, still not very many of us, considering there's 35,000 hospitals in the United States and only 1,000 CVPMs. Do the math there. I became a hospital administrator of a big general practice, and I had a lot of colleagues asking me for help quite a bit about like, hey, what do I do about this? Hey, you're a CVPM. Hey, you're a practice manager. Can you help me with this and that? And so my outside of my general practice, my regular job, I was helping a lot of people, and then realized like, hey, I could make a living out of this. So I did some consulting on the side and then realized, let's do this full time. And I've been consulting with practices all over the country and Canada for about 10 years now. Love it. I love having an effect on not just one team with 50 or 60 team members, but teams all over the country. I love it. Do a lot of webinars, a lot of conferences. Western, I'm at Ontario VMA the end of this month in Canada. Lots and lots of conferences you'll hear me speaking at. Lots of webinars, do a lot of on-site. So I'll come into practices and do a lot of on-site training, work with practice owners, practice managers. Once I became a CVPM, I realized I didn't know jack about people and HR. And that's like a huge part of our job, right, as managers. So I did lots of HR specific training. So professional human resources, senior professional human resources, and then the lovely state of California is the only state that has its own credential in human resources. And then once I did some peopling, did some training in that aspect, I realized, especially through COVID, that like our teams are hurting. Like our people are hurting. We have some really hurt people in our profession, and COVID really kicked us in the teeth. Bad, 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 ugly, bad. And so I did some compassion fatigue training. I'm a certified compassion fatigue professional, and I'm fear-free certified as well, because I feel like that is certainly something to be able to put pets first in everything that I do and how I approach my patient care. So a lot of different credentials, a lot of different educational training, a lot of hands-on in practice training. So everything I bring to you today has a little bit of experience mixed in with a little bit of formal education and a little bit of everywhere, right? Meaning that it could be a rural practice in the middle of New Mexico. It could be a multi-specialty practice. It could be small animal, large animal, practice of 5, practice of 2, or a practice of 50, multi-site specialty practice. So what I bring to the table is a little bit of anything and everything all kind of mashed up together. I don't think that veterinary medicine is black and white. I don't think our people are. I don't think our patients are. I don't think medicine is. Everything that we come into contact with is gray. And I think that we as managers and leaders in our practices need to learn how to adapt and pivot and change and adapt to our whatever we're facing, whatever our circumstance is in the moment. I'm a big proponent of bull by the horns. It's a manager's job. Take the crisis and figure it out. And so through that, we have to learn how to problem solve and recognize when our solution that we've come up with isn't working, doesn't fit, and how do we recognize in the moment there's an obstacle in front of us and learn how to pivot through it. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to share screen now and get this show on the road, if you guys don't mind that. Okay. How's that look? Yeah? All right. Megan, if you don't mind monitoring the chat for me, I'm going to minimize that screen. If somebody's got a question, feel free to interrupt me and we'll chat about it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about coaching reviews and feedback and how this can fit into our practice with our team members. And I'm going to make the assumption that everybody that's listening today is somehow in leadership. And so that's how I'll focus our talk. And leadership being that we're the ones that are delivering the coaching review and feedback, whatever that looks like to your team. If you're a supervisor giving a feedback, or if you're a manager giving a performance review, or if you're a practice owner coaching in the moment. So that's how I'll deliver today's talk. If this is not who you are and you want to have a side conversation with me about how this might look like in your role, please feel free to email me and we certainly can have a chat. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see my email. Use it, please. I love to chat with you offline about whatever your questions are, conversations, what's going on in your practice, if I can be a resource, and then my QR code that takes you directly to my contact information there. In my bottom right-hand corner, you'll see my podcast. That's me and David Liss, Positive Leadership Podcast. We'll play on words there. You can find us on any podcast platform. Check it out. Tell me what you think. All right. Yep. If I mention a product or a service, they aren't paying me to say it. It's because I think it works or sucks, one or the other. All right. So coaching, review, and feedback. These are 3 different specific types of information we deliver to our teams in different platforms in different ways and methods. And so we're going to break down all 3 of these today and talk about how these look, what they feel like, taste, touch, smell like with our team members. So we'll start off with a formal performance review. It's a discussion about an employee's development and performance. It's a planning process, and it involves a plan of action. And that's for the next period moving forward. And we talk about what's been achieved in the last time frame, right? Last period. Most often we see this on an annual basis, like the traditional annual performance review. So we talked about what they've accomplished or where they stopped over the last year, and then moving into the space, what their goals are going to be for this next year, what they're going to be working on. This is very traditional, specifically coming from the corporate world, and we've adapted this model into the veterinary profession, although there's going to be a poll coming soon about how we don't do this very well in veterinary medicine. Coaching is a form of development in which a person called a coach, aka manager, but this coach could be anybody, supports a learner, the person, right, employee, and achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing training and guidance. Okay, so I'm a huge NFL fan. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan to the core, like cut me, I bleed green and gold since I was 4 years old. Matt LaFleur is our coach of the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going to give you an analogy. If you're not an NFL fan, you should be, and Green Bay should be your team. Bear with me. NFL, we have Matt LaFleur. He is our coach. Jordan Love is our quarterback. Okay, so Matt LaFleur is looking at Jordan Love. He's the quarterback. He's our veterinarian, right? We have an offensive line that protects Jordan Love. And then we have the defensive line, which is our clients, our offensive line, which is our team. Jordan Love is trying to make plays, which I would consider like patient care, right? Okay, so Matt LaFleur is trying to coach his team through plays. He is standing from the sideline. That's a manager. That's our job. He's seeing and he's calling plays. He's actually a play caller, and is going to say, hey, I want Jordan Love to make this play. We've been working on this all week long in practice. We're actually going to call this play in the game. When he sees somebody not run a play appropriately, when the defensive line breaks through the offensive line and sacks the quarterback, he is going to pull somebody from the offensive line, pull them aside, and probably chew their butt. Talk about how they didn't run that play appropriately. He may bench somebody for not performing well. He may sub a player out who is limping or hurting, right? So think about how we as managers are on the sideline. We're not on the field, people. We're on the sideline. We are coaching our team on how to make plays. When we see the defensive line show a formation, we can move people around, right? So think about that as a coach on the sideline, about how we are coaching our team to run plays, to pull team members when they are not performing, or when they're hurt, or when they're injured, or we know somebody's really good at something, we're going to put them in. So think about it from that aspect of being on the sideline and being able to look to see what's happening and how we can move team members around the pitch, right around the field. Okay, next up is feedback. Feedback is the core of personal and professional growth. Feedback can help an employee improve in what they do. Employees crave this. Most managers don't provide it enough, and when they do, they make it too negative or too vague while trying to PB&J that, right? The peanut butter jelly sandwich, they put something good, they put a little bit of negative, and they put something good in there, and they feed them this PB&J sandwich, right? So how many times have you heard somebody tell you, if I make a mistake, would you please just tell me? That's craving feedback. If I do something wrong, I wish you would just tell me. That's craving feedback. We don't do a very good job at it. So hopefully today we're going to talk a little bit about what feedback looks like and how we can deliver it a little bit better to provide a better form of communication, but deliver it better so that employees receive it better and can change how they their performances or what it looks like, and have some growth potential in our team. Okay, so those are 3 different types of feedback we'll get into today. So our first question, pop your answer in the chart and the chat, and we'll take some time to look at it. So this is an SPHR question. So if you ever want to take your SPHR test, let's see, your Senior Professional Human Resource Test, the most important objective of an employee performance appraisal is. Performance appraisal is another, like, more formal corporate word for performance review. Okay, so Most important objective of employee performance appraisal is A, communicating employee shortcomings. B, protect the practice against wrongful discharge suits. C, document the performance process. D, encourage and motivate workers. And so we'll do this little like Jeopardy, do, 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 do. Right? We'll give you guys a couple minutes. I want to see what your answers are going to be. What do you guys think? Who's ready to pass their SBHR here? Get a few answers. Okay, D. I see A. I definitely won. Is that an A? I'm going to go with that's an A. Michael Shirley. Hey, what's up, Michael? LOL. D. Okay, I'm going to go with most of you are going to pick D, and I'm going to tell you, correct, yeah, you all passed your SPHR. To encourage and motivate workers. That is our goal, is to encourage and motivate our team, right? If you're from California, you probably picked C because we are always worried about how to B, because we're always trying to CYA. We're always like worried about getting wrongful termination lawsuits. So you get a pass if you're from California, you probably picked B. Right. We always want to encourage and motivate our teams. And let's say that we have somebody we're really struggling with their performance, right? And we're setting this performance review up for okay, yeah, you suck, you better shape up or ship out, right? We still want to encourage them to do better, even in a what I would call like a quote bad situation, if you will. If they're still a bad performer, we still want to encourage them, right, to do better. So be thinking in mind when you are doing your performance appraisals is, how am I encouraging them? Is it encouraging when we're doing this shaming and blaming and saying, boy, you sure have bad performance, and doing the finger wag at them? Does that encourage them? Like, of course not. So think about what are you doing to encourage and motivate your workers when you are doing your performance appraisals? Okay, which formats? How do I do it? There's so many of them. Who's there? When do I do them? And the question of the day, how much do I give them? When I coach managers through these performance reviews, it can be daunting to the point where I feel like it's the ostrich in the sand, right? You just put your head in the sand and say, I don't even want to deal with it because it's too much. How do I eat the elephant in front of me? One bite at a time. So let's break it down. All these questions, let's get into it. The formats. Holy macanoli, the formats. There's so many of them. I just did a laundry list here of some popular ones. Quite a few of these are ones that I don't see very often in veterinary medicine, more so in the corporate world, but the ones in red, I put that I see more often in the veterinary space. Not to say that I don't see some of the other ones. So the checklists, the narrative or essay, that's usually my favorite. The peer reviews and the 360 are the more often what I see in vet med. I am going to throw a huge red flag caution to any of you that use peer reviews or 360 evaluations. Be very, 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 very careful if you use these. And I say that because veterinary medicine is extremely small. Your practice, I don't care how big, is extremely small. If you put in a comment from a peer, from a coworker, from someone else, I guarantee the person who wrote it, if you say, I won't say who it's from, and you put it in the review, the person who it's given to, they're going to figure it out. When we do private conversations, in an exam room, the walls are thin and there's like a 2-inch gap under the door, or there's a CSR with like a cup, to the door listening in, right? There's nowhere that's safe in our practices. Everybody talks. There's usually often a tone or certain words that people use. And so when you include other people's comments in reviews, they know. They just know. It comes out. Trust me. So be very careful. even with like positive comments, then, you know, we can have some like peacock feathers where they're like, oh yeah, that doctor said I'm amazing. And so you all suck and she loves me. So just be careful with those. I'm not a fan of those. I don't mind when we're taking, I do want feedback from other people, but I most of the time it's going to be about the same type of information. And so restate it all in your own words, or, you know, use chat GPT. Like I'm having all my managers use chat GPT now when they do um, performance reviews, like put it information in and have somebody else spit it out, right? So that it's not something that the employee can find out who said it. So just be careful with that. If you have one that you love, oh my gosh, share it with your neighbor, right? Annual performance review, there is not a one size fits all. Some people really like the checklist. Some people really like the fill in the blank, the ranking ones. I like the narrative ones. You know, everybody is different of what they like. If you love yours, by all means, share it. VHMA, go on to the oh, what is that called when you have like the you can post things. I forget what it's called, but you can go onto the manager's chat there. I'll just call it that because I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, ask everybody else to share with you. I'm happy to share mine with you. I'll share samples all day long with you. I've got all kinds of formats and samples. I'm happy to share. It's whatever works best for you. I will tell you why I like mine the best. Happy to get into that with you offline, but you know, share away, right? When you're doing a performance review, I really strongly recommend SMART goals. And if you haven't heard of that, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Make sure that you include the resources that somebody needs. So if you say you want them to learn how to do cysto sticks, by God, give them a resource for that, right? Maybe that's some anatomy. Maybe that's a tool to work with somebody else who knows how to do cysto sticks. Maybe that's a CE on, here's a link to a webinar that they could watch. Maybe send them to another shift at the ER. I don't know, but give them some resources in that. Make sure that we're outlining strengths and areas of improvement. I like to call these areas of focus. Those I really try to stay away from the negative connotations of weakness, or kind of those negative icky words that aren't motivating, right? We're going back to motivating workers. And when you say they're weak and infer that they suck, that's not very motivating. So think about areas of strength, areas of improvement, or areas of focus, and then identify skills that they want to develop, right? Or that the practice needs them to develop. So if they are coming into, let's say, a level 1 veterinary assistant, and yeah, let's go with cysto sticks, where they need to, they're doing a great job with animal handling, restraint, and blood draws, but boy, they're not doing very well with their cysto sticks. And so we're gonna, and urine collection, so we're gonna give them a SMART goal of doing some cystocentesis urine collections. So we're going to talk about what that looks like. When we do that and we talk about areas of improvement and we career map for them. So we're going to talk about what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Let's say we're talking to Susie, the veterinary assistant. She was promoted from kennel. Now she's a veterinary assistant or a technician assistant, something like that. What do you want to be when you grow up, Susie? And she wants to be a veterinarian, or she wants to be a beekeeper. I don't know, whatever, right? Okay, let's get you there. What do you need to get there, right? And if I lose you to beekeeping school, okay, fine. But until you get to beekeeping school, what can I do to enhance your skill at the practice? And there's some soft skills, there's some hard skills, there's some educational component to that. You need to, right, grow your skill set. And when you grow your skill set, it's also going to grow the practice. Imagine that. So when we talk about some career mapping, that is going to help grow the practice. Even if one day she goes out to beekeeping school, right? We still need to grow their skills while they're here with us. There we go. SMART goals. Look at that. I even put a slide in there about it. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. The big piece of that, well, that's all big, but like timely, 3 months, SMART, specific, right? That's going to be, well, I'll just get into the example. 10 ultrasound guided cysto sticks in 30 days. Well, I should have put successful. 10 successful ultrasound guided cysto sticks in 30 days, right? That's very specific. We can measure that. It's achievable. It's realistic. Well, we're assuming it's realistic, right? If you don't do urine in your practice, that's not realistic. Make sure it's realistic. 10 observable client service acts. And we didn't put a time on that one. So I would say, like, let's say in 6 months, something like that, right? Ask for help when you're overwhelmed. Try to make them as specific as possible. Make sure you include timely. Talk about what type of obstacles the person might run into. If you don't collect a lot of urine in your practice, or you have a doctor that just does it on automatically, maybe have a conversation with that doctor and say, hey, doc, we're really trying to have Susie, the veterinary assistant, really learn this skill. I need you to be conscientious of when these cysto sticks come up, that she's going to be attempting these, and maybe she gets 1 poke or 2 poke try, and then can you get to take over. But have those conversations. That's going to be an obstacle for Susie, right? If the doctor's always doing them. So we need to be conscious of identifying what that obstacle looks like, so that Susie can get over that and get past that obstacle. So some very smart, specific goals in there. And I want to take a minute to pause right there, because I talked about a hard skill, a soft skill, and some kind of educational goal in there. So in your performance reviews, I like to have a minimum of 3 goals in every single performance review. And one of them is a hard skill, ultrasound guided cysto sticks, right? One of them is going to be a soft skill. Those are life skills. Those are hard, very, very hard to accomplish for people. We tend to not fire people because we don't fire people because they can't do cysto sticks, right? We fire people because they can't show up on time. They're not team players, because they have conflict with team members, because they don't have emotional intelligence, right? That's why we fire people. So we give them soft skill goals, things like conflict resolution skills, right? Communication skills. So we give them a soft goal in there that we're going to have be a team player. And that may mean that they have show up on time, that they have team communication resolution with their team communication, AKA quit bickering. We may have them eliminate their gossip. That might be one, right? So think about having a hard skill and a soft skill in their SMART goals, and then also some type of CE skill or CE goal. I love having CE built in there. That is probably going to be something that's tied back to their hard skill or to their soft skill. So they need to watch a webinar on how to collect urine, or a webinar on conflict resolution, or they need to watch Granite Peak's amazing webinar on conflict resolution, something like that, right? So give them some type of CE goal they need to have as well. That's going to be good for everybody. And maybe that's a lesson learned on vaccinology that you have, I don't know, BI come in and do in your practice, something like that, right? Ooh, this is the fun part. The financial part. There's actually a formula on how we give out money and raises in the financial aspect. I feel like practices, when I talk with them about how you come up with giving raises, they like magically go to the cloud and they just pluck some cloud down and they say, here you go. This is how much we're giving this person. There's a formula to it. There's a process to it. Believe it or not, there is. So there's 2 parts to a raise. There is a COLA. That's the cost of living. Now, our cost of living went way weird over COVID. It's finally starting to normalize. So I put the link in there, the Bureau of Land Statistics. I did this one it's the consumer price index, or the CPI. This link happens to be nationwide. You can hone in and go like your area. I think you can even get as like to your zip code, like really super specific. You could do like your county and your state. So you can really hone in. I don't know how like close you can hone in on. I don't know if it's as much as your city or your, but I know you can at least do like your county and your state. But this is national. So you can see how it's like, it's usually anywhere between like 1% and 3%, something like that. So you can see how it's kind of all over the place. And then 2021 and 2022, it just went nutso because of COVID. Now it's starting to really regulate and come back down. They haven't posted December yet. So the 2024 is only through November, but it is really starting to come back down and regulate again. So this is something that includes like, insurance went up, bread went up, gas went up, all the different things. Okay, so that's part number one. Part number two is their performance. And typically their performance is going to be from 0 to 6%. And if you're giving a 0 increase, that's because they suck and they probably should be on a PIP, not having a performance review. A PIP is a performance improvement plan, not a performance review. If they're getting a 0, then they should be on a PIP. You shouldn't even be doing a review. Totally other topic. So, a 1% is like, they show up on time, they wear their name tag, they're doing their job, right? A 6% is like, superstar, can I clone you? You're amazing. I love you. Please come back and do more every day. And I put a range in wages just so you can kind of get an idea of what that is. Now, minimum wage in California is like $16.50. So, we don't really have people at that rate, but I know that the national minimum wage is like, I don't know, $7.75, I think. So you are going to have people that have a minimum, that have, people at $14 an hour, and then, up to supervisors, I don't know, whatever. It's just an idea. You can figure it out whatever your people are at. So thinking about how we're combining somebody, let's pick somebody, $20 an hour, right? We'll have somebody that's getting 20 cents all the way up to $1.20. And then they're getting their COLA. And let's say their COLA was, I forget what COLA was, 2.7%. Okay, so let's say they're getting, $1.50. It is 6% or 5% plus their COLA, right? So we actually have a formula that we can say, here's your COLA and here's your performance. Here is where we come up with what we can do. This is how we budget, people. This is how we can say, on average, we can budget for our whole entire team to have a 6% increase. Now, not everybody's going to get it, but you can still budget for that. A 6% increase plus, I don't know, you could pick your COLA from, last year and say, okay, let's say just a 3% COLA. So we can budget for everybody to have a 9% increase. That's not going to happen, but at least you budget for it. Okay, so yay, we have a formula now. I know Granite Peak is just going to love that. Woo! We now have a budget that we can put in for our team to be able to have, okay, this is what it is for the performance reviews moving forward, right? This is how we do our financial aspect. Questions so far about that? I want to make sure that everybody is good with how we can figure that out. Okay, no questions. I'm going to move on. Okay, now who's there? And this is a little bit of all over the place depending on what your practice looks like, the size of it, the organizational chart. Like, you have a deep organizational chart with lots of layers of supervisors and leads and managers and things like that. Or if you have a really small practice and like the practice owner and then the practice owner's spouse or partner is like manager, it depends, right? So I've highlighted in red who I feel is appropriate to be there pending your practice. So, right. So there's room for you to convince me otherwise. Absolutely, the manager should be there. Absolutely, the employee has to be there, right? Now, if there's a department supervisor and the manager is training the department supervisor to give reviews, then yes, the supervisor can be there. If you want the supervisor there as the accountability person moving forward so that the supervisor is the one that's facilitating the employee's SMART goal and skill development, then yeah, absolutely, for sure, right? If the supervisor gives the reviews, absolutely. It could be the supervisor or employee. I put practice owner, I'm not crazy about the practice owner being there, unless the practice is so small that the practice owner, there's no manager and there's no real lead. The practice owner is the one that spearheads this. And it's a small practice, like practice of 5, then yeah, I could see the practice owner being there. But for the most part, there's not a need for the practice owner to be there. Practice owners, when they're veterinarians, are legally allowed to do 4 things, right? Prescribe, surgery, diagnose, and give a prognosis. I want DVMs doing those 4 things. If they're not doing those 4 things, then they're not generating revenue. So move on. Go do doctor stuff. Let managers do manager stuff. I am a very firm believer of doing the things that you should be doing and nothing else. Now, the practice owner has responsibility to be doing some administrative things, and employee reviews are typically not one of them unless it's a small practice without a manager. So you can convince me that they're doing them, but I'm going to be hard pressed to agree with you. Owner's partner and spouse, nope, not a fan. Not unless the practice owner is the DVM and it's a small practice and the spouse happens to be the manager. Now I've got a bestie, Maria Morgan. She's a CVPM. She is owner. Her husband is the DVM, Mike Morgan, and she runs the practice. Absolutely. She's a CVPM, even though they co-own and she's quote the spouse. She is a CVPM. She's manager. She manages the practice. Absolutely. She does it, right? For sure. So there is a case where you're going to be able to, I will yield to that argument. Sometimes I hear things like department leads and bookkeepers in there, and I don't get it. Nope, you're not convincing me on that one. Moving on. Shouldn't be in there. Okay, and now it's not working. I don't know what's happening now. Okay, when? So if we give a smashing positive review at the beginning of the day, and that person is on cloud 9 the rest of the day, and they get a big old huge fat 6% review or 6% raise for performance and their COLA raise, what are they going to be doing the rest of the day? They're going to be smiling and they're going to be telling everybody, I got my review and I got me raise, right? They're going to be jazzed. They're going to be excited. So the next person that goes in is going to be like, sweet, I'm going in for my review and I'm getting me my raise today. So it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. And we want to get them motivated, right? And excited. And on the flip side of that, if it's a troublesome one and we've got Eeyore that's kicking rocks and boo-hooing and it's a cloudy bummer day, and I only got my COLA and, blah, blah, and boo-hoo, I don't necessarily want them and their cloudy grumpiness at the practice the rest of the day. So I'm probably going to be doing that one at the end of the day, for sure. So I try, because we all know that in veterinary medicine, what we aim for and what actually happens is definitely 2 different things. So that's my goal. It doesn't always work that way, but that's my goal is to try to schedule them that way. How frequently should they be done? And this is where I say that corporate has set us up for failure in the sense of in the corporate world, outside of veterinary medicine and in the corporate like Google, I don't know, meta world, we have this thought that everybody gets their annual performance review. And in veterinary medicine, we just don't work that way. I'm a huge proponent for quarterly or semi-annual. Now, that does not mean we're giving raises every single review. That's why I like quarterly and semi-annual, because they are meeting with me on a regular basis, quarterly, and having a conversation with me. I'm reassessing their goals. Once they meet their goals, then I am giving them a raise. It may or may not be 6%, I'm for sure going to be looking at their pay on an annual basis, but I'm looking at their goals and having conversations with them on a quarterly basis. I may not be doing a formal review process with them quarterly. I may just be having what I would consider a check-in, but absolutely having a conversation with them, checking in with them, reviewing their goals, seeing what obstacles they're facing, if they're struggling with something, if we need to pivot, right? What's going on with them? And again, it doesn't have to be formal, but I would say at minimum, right, do your performance review annually. And I'm going to absolutely encourage you to have conversations with them quarterly or semi-annual. The more frequent, the better. You will keep your team members engaged. You will allow for conversations to happen where they can come to you and say, hey, do you have a minute? I need to talk to you today. And you don't cringe that they're going to put their notice in. It's going to be, oh, wow, I bet they've accomplished their goals and they're asking for more. I bet you they have an idea they want to share with me about how the practice can improve, or they have a broken system that they want to fix. I know when we hear, hey, do you have a minute to talk today? All of us are like, crap, I'm going to have to repost that ad on Indeed. I'm going to have to change the schedule now. I wonder when they're going to get their last day. That's what we think. And instead of having our team members set up for, let's have regular dialogue on a regular basis and check-ins often and frequent, right? Keep those conversations open and flowing. Hey, guess what? I hit my 10 cysto sticks. Can I get another goal? Right? Think about that. Just saying. All right. So let's talk a little bit about leveling. State of California a couple of years ago said we are no longer allowed to ask for previous salary history during interviews. So I get a candidate that says, hey, what do you want to make? What were you making before? We can't ask that anymore. So we were getting these people asking for astronomical amounts of money more because they knew we couldn't go back and say, well, that's not what you were making. So we had to pivot a little bit and have really heavily leaned on these levelings. And I love them. I have begged for this to happen years ago and have implemented it in my practices years before this happened. And I've seen nothing but success. So leveling looks like, and I took this CSR as an example. Level 1, and these are just made up ranges because I know every state and every practice is going to be different. So bear with me if this is out of line with your practice. It's just an example. Level 1, $16 to $18. Let's say this is a barista, got some client service, but is, excuse me, not veterinary client service, coming from Starbucks. Level 1, $16 to $18, a little bit of client service, but doesn't know, which hole the thermometer goes in. Level 2, let's say 1 year of veterinary experience, has good vaccinology understanding, can actually say like Bordetella instead of Bordadella or whatever. Does a great job with clients, great phone etiquette, right? Okay, so we got a level 2, 17 to 20. See how there's a little bit of overlap there. And let's say level 3 is our outstanding superstar, like runs circles around the team, just all around great team member. Give her a project and she nails it every time, exceeds your expectations. And then we have the lead. And the lead is like, can de-escalate most pissed off clients. Just the go-to. Always going to be the one that shows up, sends people to lunch without having to ask. So just our solid, right? So see how there's some overlap in there. So when we have a level 1 CSR, we write out what that looks like. It's on paper. So when a level 1 CSR says, hey, I want a raise, we can say, hey, fantastic. In order for you to get a raise, you can get to level 2. Here's the things you need to accomplish. You have to have 1 year of veterinary experience. So what was your hire date? Right? You have to be able to identify the practice standards of care for all the vaccines and know what the vaccines are, where they go, what they do, what the side effects are when there's a vaccine reaction, what happens. Oh, well, guess you're going to be studying our standards of care and some vaccines. Maybe you ought to talk to the vaccine rep I don't know. That's a novelty, right? So we've got that outlined for the CSR so that that CSR knows these are the things I need to accomplish to get to level 2. And those levels are going to look different for every single practice. This is a fantastic exercise for you and your leadership team to flesh out what this looks like for every different role in your practice and say, you know, CSRs, veterinary assistants, technicians, kennel, whatever it is, and say, how many levels do we want to have? What do they look like? And what does it take to get from level 1 to level 2? Who is assessing it? Is there a test involved? Is there a checklist involved, right? And then what are the pay ranges assigned to that? So great exercise for teams to be able to say, I want to level up. And if you have questions, let me know offline. I'm happy to share and talk to you about what this might look like and how this exercise would look at your practice. Okay, so poll 2, let's put this in the chat, people. How often are performance reviews conducted at your practice? No judgment, absolutely no judgment. I am 100% curious to know how you're doing it, how it works at your practice. So do you do them annually, consistently? When employees ask for a raise and say, hey, I haven't had a review in a while, can I have a review? Or reviews, are you crazy? We don't have time for that. Hello, duh. Or D, more often than once a year. And here we'll go back to the Jeopardy music, you know, do, 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 do. I'm horrible at that. Okay, and I think we stopped. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we start with Ashley, annually. A, Rebecca, D. A, Michael Shirley, D. A. Lots of A's, a couple D's. Okay, annually consistency. Good job. I love it. D, more often than once a year. Fantastic. And for you A people, I am going to encourage you. There's a lot of you. I'm going to encourage you 2025, consider one of your own personal SMART goals as a practice manager to step that up a little bit and try meeting with your team either semi-annually or quarterly. Again, not necessarily formally. Schedule some check-ins, put it on your calendar, make sure it's on a day they work, schedule some time, put it in your PIMS calendar, check in with Susie, check in with Bobby, whatever, 15 minutes, go in an exam room, take it for a cup of coffee. You know, what I started doing is taking a walk around the practice, get outside, get some vitamin D, make it casual, go for a walk, have a conversation. Hey, I just wanted to check in with you. I noticed I gave you some goals. I went over your performance review. I gave you some goals. I wanted to chat with you. How are they coming along? How are things with you? Are you having any obstacles? Are you okay with your schedule? Is anyone being mean to you? Are you getting along with everybody on the team? Is there any ideas you have for some professional growth for you? Where do you see yourself in the next 6 months? Is there anything me or the practice can do to support you? Do you have any ideas for practice growth? Ask some open-ended questions. Try to get the juices flowing with them to say, hey, where do you fit in with the practice vision of growth, right? Get them engaged in their job. Challenge accepted? I hope so. Whoa, wrong way. All right, so coaching. These are teaching moments. These are meant to be developing skill set with some immediate feedback. Let's go back to the Matt LaFleur concept here, right? We do need to document these. This does not necessarily mean that they have to sign every scrap of paper. This is for managers like myself who can't remember things, but also so that you remember when you did it, if you need it in the future to make it, turn it into something more in a legal format, I would say, right? Make sure you're keeping your body language in check. You don't need to make it a production, and make sure you are, I'm always going to tell you to be honest and transparent in your conversation with some examples. So I have some, an example here. I put in red developing skill sets. So be thinking about the Matt LaFleur concept of a sports team where coach is teaching a team member how to develop skill, how we're using something, a play that we've designed to use in play, and how we're developing their skill in the moment, right? Oh, why does it keep doing that? Okay, so here's our example. Joey, the CSR, interacts with a challenging client today. He did a fair job of attempting to de-escalate the situation. However, he could have tried several more things to make a better effort. Let's coach him. So this is a great opportunity to pull him aside and say, hey, Joey, I heard your conversation with Mrs. Smith today. I heard you did a great job with her. You used her name. You called the pet by name. You actually used the right sex of the pet, right? You called the girl a she instead of mixing that up. We all know who owners get super sensitive about that, right? So great job. However, you still had to turn that over to the lead because you couldn't quite get her de-escalated. So I want to talk to you, Joey, about a few things. Let's see if we can help you for the next time. What do you think, Joey, that you did great? What are some of the things that you felt like worked for you? And Joey may share with us the same things that we shared. Yeah, I use the client's name, use the pet's name. Okay, great. What are some things that you think went south? Where did you get flustered, Joey? Where did Joey get the pit in the stomach or sweaty armpits, right? Where did Joey think like, crap, I shouldn't have said that? So let's talk through that, Joey. And then, Joey, I didn't hear the other end, so I can't hear if the client got escalated, but I heard your voice go up a notch. Did you match the client? Did you try to talk over the client, right? So maybe coaching Joey on giving him one or two things that would help in the conversation in the future, right? It's not a production. This is not like a Joey, shame on you. Joey, you sucked at this. This is like, hey, Joey, I heard you have this conversation and I just want to be able to help coach you so that next time the Smith gets on the phone and gets under your skin, that, you're more confident in having the conversation. This is where I heard you do great, right? So here's our coaching where it's a relaxed conversation. And if Joey's super flustered and is like red faced and afterwards, like, Joey, take 10 minutes, take an early lunch, go smoke. And if you don't smoke, go outside and pretend to smoke, right? Like, take a break. It's okay. Like, things happen and it's okay to take a breather, for Pete's sake. Like, that's okay. I will cover the phones for 10 minutes while you go, collect your composure again. Sometimes clients get under our skin. They don't need to, but they do. So that's a great example of coaching of how Joey did okay. And we want to help Joey how to do better, right? And give him some tips and tricks and things about what we observed, where he felt like he struggled, and what he could do in the future for the next call. Pat on the back, send him back in the game. Okay, so feedback. So feedback is definitely different. It feels different than coaching. It is definitely different than a performance evaluation. Feedback provides direction. We need to give feedback as often as we possibly can in a timely manner. Now, timely's funny in veterinary medicine. We often try to give something timely and it's like 2 weeks later because I couldn't that day. And then Joey was on vacation and then I was on vacation and then it hit the fan and then I don't know, whatever. And then, oh yeah, by the way, Joey, back in right before Thanksgiving, you were talking to that one guy. Okay, yeah, no, forget it, right? Yeah, you could do it, but it's not going to be as valuable as if you just stop what you're doing for just a brief moment and just do it. It's painful for us sometimes because HR is like 80% of our time and it's only 20% of our duties. But I will encourage you to just do it. It's really difficult to stop when you have 10 billion other things to do. But I really encourage you to just try to say, you know what, that phone call can wait, that email response can wait. If a patient is not dying on your watch, then like just take the time to coach your employees, because I will tell you it's worth it in the long run. That problem can wait just 5 minutes. It will still be there when you're done with your coaching session or your feedback session. I promise you it will be there, and maybe it won't be because somebody else will have solved it. When we pour into our employees, oftentimes, like there's I think it's a Steve Jobs quote that says, when we're so busy managing people, we don't have time to lead people. Or maybe it's Zig Ziglar, I don't know, and I'm probably screwing it up horribly. But my point is like when we take an opportunity to pour into our people, they end up running our business much better. And we're not stuck like having to manage all the crap because they actually do it better. So just stop what you're doing for a minute and take the opportunity to have the feedback session or the coaching session. It will pay off more than, fixing the stupid internet that can just wait a minute. Okay, that's my soapbox. Feedback. So do things as often as you can with relative and timely info, giving direction and support and training. Keep in mind, going back to, we need to encourage and motivate our team. This needs to be done with an intent to understand our team members. We're non-judgmental, right? We want to ask open-ended questions and make sure we're listening to them without shaming and blaming. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan, and I hear her when she is harping on that we have a huge part to play as leaders of shaming and blaming and passing judgment because we don't close our mouths and open our ears and ask more open-ended questions about what's happening in these instances with them. So be cognizant when you go into these of how you're delivering this feedback. So let's talk about feedback. Usually these are our direction. Okay, so the newest vet assistant has been offering to take boarding pets up front to clients at discharge time, leaving her duties and tasks to lag behind. Let's give her some feedback. So I'm going to go into this vet assistant conversation in a private area, and I'm going to say, hey, I don't know, Bailey, I see that, mind you, I say new vet assistant, okay? Bailey, I see that you are taking pets up front to the discharged clients. And I see that the laundry and the closing duties are really suffering, leaving your coworkers to pick up the pace there. And I wanted to talk to you about this. What's your focus here? And tell me more about why this has been your priority. Open-ended questions. Now, because our new VA, I can already tell you our new VA is trying to impress me, impress everybody else because they're new, right? Maybe our VA is a people pleaser. Maybe our new VA loves clients and doesn't have a lot of interaction with clients because they're in the treatment room. So maybe they're in the wrong seat in the bus because they're on the med team and not as the CSR team, let's say. Maybe they don't like to clean, and that is the laundry and the cleanup duties. Lots of reasons of why the VA is taking up patients to the front and leaving the duties that she is assigned to. Maybe she has no idea and the training was missed that she has these duties to do. Maybe she has no direction at closing time of what she's supposed to be doing. Maybe she doesn't she sees her team up front, the CSR team, drowning at discharge. So I'm going to ask some open-ended questions, and then I'm going to give her some feedback. I'm going to listen to why she tells me that she is doing this. Now, I'm going to assume that all of her points are valid. And if I hear that, like I said, maybe she is in the wrong position or maybe she doesn't have direction, I'm going to address those. However, the feedback I'm going to give her is, hey, so I want you to be in a VA position. So what I want you to be doing is focusing on laundry and cleanup in your end of day checklist. Let's make sure that, first of all, you have this checklist, you're aware of these duties, and you know how to do these duties. Let's make sure that you don't need training on any of these duties and that you understand them, and these need to be your primary focus. Oh, okay. So Megan just told me we're at time. And so I am going to just cut it off right there and say there's our differences between coaching and feedback and performance reviews. I only had one slide left of some data of how much employees love and crave and want the feedback. And so we'll skip that and I'll just shut up now. So thanks for coming, you guys. If you have questions, please email me. I'd love to talk more with you offline. Thanks for coming and spending your hour with me. And now I'll really stop. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Granite Peak.
You were awesome. Thank you so much. I think everyone took lots of notes, has a great takeaway. We're going to start off 2025 strong.